Hi, welcome to Echoes from the Satellite. I'm your host, Karen. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a response video as a response to a response video. Okay, this will all make sense. I guarantee it. So the other day, I was watching Vintage SF, and Richard on Vintage SF was doing a response to Ben on Grammaticus books, and they were covering their top 10 book covers. Ben did it first, Richard responded, and then Richard encouraged other folks to respond with their top 10 book covers. And this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I promise it was on my list. And I thought, well, that's a great idea, and this is a great opportunity to do it. So I'm going to put together my list. And while I am in no way in the same league as Vintage SF or Grammaticus books, excited to go ahead and share my top 10, and I hope you guys enjoy it. There are a couple of rules though. The first one, which Ben put down, was that you cannot duplicate artists. So you can't have multiple covers by the same artist. And another, well, I don't think it's a rule, but I think it was something Richard decided to do, was to go in chronological order by the first year of the printing of the book. So with that, with our ground rules set, I'll go ahead and start. The first book that I'm going to start with, originally printed in 1937, is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And my particular version that I'm putting up here is from 73, and the cover is also by J.R.R. Tolkien. Yes, he painted this cover. Now you can see my copy. Pretty banged up, but this is my original edition, which I got as a wee child and read the heck out of. I'll put up a version that looks much better, but always loved this. It's hard, I think, sometimes to separate the book and our love for the story from maybe our love for the cover art. And while in some ways this cover art might not look as professional as other works, I always thought that it was kind of special that the author, that Tolkien, also did art for his stories that I think perhaps, he created these whole worlds, these languages and everything else, and that maybe the artwork was another way for him to get all of that, out of his head and into reality. So that's my number one cover, chronologically. Not necessarily my favorite, but chronologically speaking. Number two, this was originally published in 1951. It is The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, and this cover was illustrated by Dean Ellis. I wouldn't say I'm a huge Ray Bradbury fan. I do enjoy Bradbury's work, and I've read several different collections and stories by him. The thing about this particular cover, and this is my version, my edition, and I'll put up a better image here. What I found interesting about this cover, and I originally saw this again as a youngster, I just found it kind of captivating, but also kind of creepy in a way. It was, of course, this was back in the 70s. I don't think tattoos were anywhere near as prevalent then as they are now. And to see someone covered in tattoos, it was sort of mysterious. And it did sort of, I mean, it definitely tied in with the stories in the book, as a way the Illustrated Man, it's been a while since I read it, but his tattoos are all tied to different tales in the book. So it definitely tied into what was going on in the book. And that was something I seemed to like. When I went back after I picked out all the books I wanted to cover, I realized, and and maybe this is due to me being a comic book fan very early in life, but I seem to want to have that narrative element on the book covers. I didn't have a lot of, abstract art or really anything that was not tied to the story. It seems like all of my book covers are related to the story. So the Illustrated Man both attracted and sort of repulsed me at the same time. It was just kind of unusual, and I think it really stands out. The next cover here is for a story or novel from 1952, and this is City by Clifford Simak. Now, this particular cover, this edition is uh, an Ace edition from 1981. And I looked around and I could not find the artist for this. So if anyone knows who the artist is for this particular edition, please let me know and I'll post it up in the comments, or you can put it in the comments. I really enjoyed this book. I read it about 2 years ago, and it's one of those ones that I do want to cover on the podcast eventually. If you haven't read it, I'm not sure how much I want to say about it. The cover really again ties into the story because, and I should say this is a fix-up novel, so it's a bunch of short stories with a similar set, the same setting and similar themes. And in this setting, the Earth is eventually folks leave the Earth. Human beings leave the Earth, and it's eventually basically inhabited just by intelligent, sentient dogs and robots. And so that cover really tells you what's going on. It's robots and dogs. But I really like the style of the artwork. So that's why I picked out that particular version. Next up, from a novel from 1962, we have The Defiant Agents by Andre Norton. This cover is from 1978. The artist is Davis Meltzer. Davis Meltzer. What I like about this cover is that you can see the conflict. There's, characters that are in conflict. What's going on? You can tell there's sort of a like a mix of eras and technologies going on here. And this is from Andre Norton's Time Traders series. And I know I mentioned this in a previous video as one of my favorite series from childhood, and something that I plan to explore as the channel goes on. I want to go back and look at more work by Andre Norton and discuss it. And I think what appeals to me here is the style of the artwork I really like. And again, maybe that goes back to, reading a lot of comics, because you can see that it's not too different from a lot of comic work. But I also like the dress of the book and the way that they, the type styles for both Andre Norton's name, and that was like a branding that they did in the 70s, and how they had her name on all of her books. And her books were very prevalent back then, and just how it was presented. So I really liked how that looked. Next up, we have from 1967 originally, but this is, I think, from 1980, The City of Gold and Lead by John Christopher. And the artwork here is by Roger Hayne. This is part of the Tripod series. That's another series that I've mentioned before. And we'll put up a nice copy of the artwork here. I like this one. It's a little offbeat. It definitely still has connections with the story. And if you're not familiar with the story, it's sort of an extension or extrapolation on the War of the Worlds, where aliens come, and in this case, they actually take over Earth. And we have a rebellion, a sort of underground rebellion going on, and these kids get caught up in the rebellion. And it essentially, kids are involved in this rebellion in that when people hit puberty, they get this mind control device put on. And so when you're pre-puberty, you're still kind of thinking for yourself. Anyway, the Tripod series is wonderful, and I really enjoy the style of this this cover with, even though it maybe doesn't exactly speak to what's going on in the book, I don't know. I think it just looks really sort of like oppressive in a way, which I think is what's going on in the story. So I really enjoyed that. And the entire series is done by this artist, at least this particular version that they did. So there's, if you look up the other books, you can see that the whole style is like that, which is kind of cool. And when I got these, I actually checked them out of the library. So yeah, that was my first look at the tripods from the library. Now, the next book that I have here, actually, this is a book I share with Ben over at Grammaticus. This is probably my favorite out of the 10 that I selected. It's just a gorgeous book. And it is Michael Moorcock's The Elric Saga Part 1. This was a sci-fi book club edition. Now, my edition is pretty messed up. But it has this gorgeous wraparound cover. This is by Robert Gould. I will put up a picture here that looks a lot better than my torn up cover. I'm constantly searching for a better looking version than this, but I haven't seen one yet. I think it can be kind of hard to find some of these books now, especially these book club versions. It's getting harder to find them out in the wild because I think there's a lot of us out there now who want to get a hold of them and collect them. But this is a just a beautiful take on Elric. You know, he's brooding as usual. He's got, you know, Stormbringer on the cover. He's holding it there. I think it's got a great mood to it. It almost reminds me, again, I'm going back to my comic book roots, but it reminds me a lot of the artwork of Barry Smith, who used to work on the Conan books. Yeah, just a gorgeous piece of art. And so I really enjoy that. And yeah, if I can get a better version somewhere, I will. Moving on. So this next selection was really difficult because I don't know that the books are all that great, although I did read the heck out of them when I was younger. But the covers on this series of books were fabulous. And I kind of narrowed it down to two of them. And I was like, I can't put two on the list. So I made this selection. Yes, it's Star Trek. Of course, I'm going to pick a Star Trek book. I love Star Trek. This one is Star Trek 7 by James Blish. The particular artist on this is J.H. Breslow. And I just love the color on this. I love the design. I'll put up a better picture for you to look at, but there's just something about this. There were a couple of others I looked at too that I thought were, you know, really beautiful, beautiful works. But I love that, you know, we have this, and yes, they put the dress right in the middle. It kind of ruins it. I would love to have all the text taken off and just look at the illustration. But we have those beautiful eyes over the top. We have, you know, the Enterprise in the green hand. So that's, you know, connecting up to Apollo from who mourns for Adonais. So there's that connection to the actual stories. And I just think it's such a well put together cover and just so, you know, it's so attractive. So yes, Star Trek does get a call out in my top 10. Now moving on, we got some more stuff from the 70s. From 1972, we have a stone cold classic, The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. And this artwork is by Murray Tinkelman. I had not heard of Murray Tinkelman before. It's just a classic cover. I'll go ahead and put up the artwork. And again, it connects to the story. You have the soldier, you have the timepieces, you know, evoking the fact that he's, you know, as he's going through these wars, time is passing on Earth, and he's kind of, you know, becoming unglued from time as things become less relevant to him as everything's thousands of years are passing back on Earth. It's a great, great story. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. But um, it's a simple cover design, but I think it's really powerful looking design. And yeah, I just really like it. I really think it works really well for that. Okay, so my penultimate choice here. This is actually it's the newest book in the sense of the most recent design, I suppose. Um, but this is still a story from the 70s. From 1975, it's Joanna Russ's The Female Man. This is an SF Masterworks edition. The art is by Dominic Harmon. Um, I only read this last year. I do want to do an episode on it, but I want to do it carefully. I think this requires a lot of consideration. I I did I don't know if I can say I liked the book. I appreciated the book. I'm glad I read it. Um, there's a lot of gender politics in the story that I think are still very relevant. And I can understand why, when it came out, it was probably very difficult for people to appreciate. But I think, given the time past, it's even um, more powerful in a lot of ways. I think Joanna Russ is a complicated author, but I'm glad I read it, and I want to reread it before I do anything on it. But I love that design. Again, it's probably the design that I've picked out that is maybe the most oh, I wouldn't even say abstract. It's maybe the most unusual, but it definitely ties into the story and the concept of these alternate realities and how a person could be changed in different realities. So, and finally, my last book is from let's see, I think it's 1983. So that's 40 years ago. There is No Darkness, another Haldeman book. Joe Haldeman with his brother Jack Haldeman. And this is, I think the cover is by Jim Burns. Okay, so Jim Burns, what can we say about this? I like the photorealistic quality of it all. That's what really, I think, pulls me into this one. Um, I read it quite a long time ago, so I was trying to remember exactly what the story was about. I know that there are some cadets in, I don't want to say it's like Starfleet, but I think it is sort of a paramilitary organization or exploration organization. And they're having adventures, going out and training, and so being on this sort of ice planet is part of it. But I really love how you get sort of a sense of almost desolation, cold, um, the sense of the unknown from that picture. And I just really liked how it looked. I thought it pulled me in enough when I saw it on the stands to buy it, and I still think it looks really cool. And just the way also um, the um, the title is typeset and everything, and just really awesome. So those are my 10 covers that I thought um, were great covers. Um, I don't know, could it change? Yeah, easily. I'm sure if you found me on another day, I might have picked a few different ones. I will say I have an honorable mention. I will put that up here in a second. There was a book I was looking for in my collection, and I was like, where is it? Where is it? And then I remembered. I know I mentioned a few times that I had some books destroyed by mold. I had a plastic bin full of books in a garage in my previous residence, and somehow some water got in there and a bunch of them got destroyed. And that included my Dune books. Now, I'm not a huge Dune fan, but I recognize that, it's a classic series. I appreciate the world building. And probably like a lot of people, I think Herbert is not great with the characters necessarily. There's not a huge lot of emotional content going on there. But I will say I loved the design of the Dune books that came out, I think, in the 70s. And so what I will show you here is Dune Messiah. And I really loved this cover of Dune Messiah. This was by Vincent Dufate, so a very famous artist. I loved how he sort of cribbed Boris Karloff's face from The Mummy for the cover of the book. Always very memorable to me. And I think that's something that's really important about a lot of these, what are our favorites? I think so much of it is memory, right? What sticks in your head when you're thinking of books? What are those books that, you instantly have vision of, or you recall like, oh, those covers stood out. Um, and so, yeah, for me, those Dune books, and especially Dune Messiah, really stood out in my head. So I'm disappointed I don't have it anymore. Um, I'm going to have to go out and see if I can. I really would like to find the older versions. I don't really want to buy the new versions, but we'll see what we can do, right? Um, so that's it. That's it for me. Those are my top 10. What are your top 10? Maybe we can get a chain going here. Let's see how many people can come forth with their top 10 covers. It'll be interesting to see what kind of crossover we get. I think a lot of us are of similar age, so I'd love to see the top 10 books. And also, people, I'm in the US, other people maybe in Canada or in Europe or whatever. So it'd be interesting to see, what the books look like in other countries. But anyway, thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate everybody's comments. I appreciate the likes and subscriptions. And just hope everybody is reading good books, staying healthy, staying safe. And I hope to see you next time.